My new year, new me usually lasts 2 weeks. Then it turns into me. Some old bad habits and some new ones. New ways to procrastinate, limit my own potential, and dim my own light. But not this year. This year is all about incremental and lasting change. I'll share with you 8 habits that impact your mind, your body, your soul, your productivity, and energy. They will be low cost, relatively low effort, and easy to integrate into a normal human life. So let's go. If only there was a gold medal for buying and reading self-care books, I'd probably get a few. At some point, I got addicted to this idea of fixing my life through reading because I love reading, and reading is easy. It's definitely easier than facing your issues head on. But as it turns out, there is actually something such as reading too much and consuming too much educational content. They say that to contain the information that you've learned, you need to balance out at least 2 hours of doing and acting upon the information that you've learned per 1 hour of learning things. So it looks like I've wasted a lot of time. So now that I know this, every time I read an interesting book or read an article, I will call a friend and tell them about it. If I listen to an interesting podcast, I will make a short summary and I'll try to implement what I've learned. I try not to feel this pressure to read everything there is to read on a topic that I'm interested in or to watch every single video. And I don't think you should feel this pressure either. And that includes my videos too, obviously. I feel like a lot of healthy eating advice centers around cutting out the food that you enjoy eating, like forget coffee, forget snacking, forget desserts, and if you ever feel like having a tiny piece of chocolate, have a celery stick instead. If you're anything like me, this can be hard to do. I'm very attached to my rituals, such as having tea or coffee. I do like a snack every now and then, or a dessert. But there is good news. There is this new piece of research written by a glucose goddess. Well, she has a different name, but she calls herself a glucose goddess. And she explains that just switching up the order in which you eat food can already make it better for your productivity levels, for your energy, and for your overall health. She explains that you should first eat your greens, then proteins and fats, then starches, and finally sugars. So if you want to have a dessert, have it at the end of your meal. This way you will avoid a glucose spike and an energy crash, and you will curb your sugar cravings. So that's pretty good news, I feel. Thank you for helping with the dishes, honey. You're doing great. Love you. It's pretty obvious that when you say a compliment to someone, it makes them happy as a result. But interestingly, you, the person giving the compliment, is also happy as a result. I tried it and it really works. I now almost give myself this daily target of either saying or doing 2 to 3 nice things every day. And it could be like just sending a nice message to a friend or complimenting a stranger in the supermarket. Obviously, for it to work, it needs to be authentic and it needs to come from a good place. So no fake kindness, please. But it's just this simple thing that you can do daily to spread kindness and also be happy as a result. We live in super interesting times when it comes to developments in psychology, psychiatry, and neuroscience. The brain imaging technology allows us to observe how the brain reacts to different things, such as art. The study of how art impacts the brain is called neuroaesthetics, and it emerged in the late 1990s, so it's super new. Scientists found that engaging with art on average 20 minutes per day, either creating it or consuming it, improves our lives dramatically. There was a study in the UK that followed people over the course of 5 years, and those who regularly engaged with art had much higher levels of cognitive performance, life satisfaction, and much lower rates of mental distress. But it isn't only about consuming art or creating it. Neuroaesthetics also study how beauty impacts our daily lives. Humans are hardwired for aesthetic experiences, which is why even as cavemen we were painting the walls of our caves. To quote from Atomic Habits, which by now is like a bible of self-development obsessed humans, the human body has about 11 million sensory receptors. Approximately 10 million of those are dedicated to sight. Some experts estimate that half of the brain's resources are used for vision. Given that we are more dependent on vision than any other sense, it should come as no surprise that visual clues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior. I did this small experiment where every day I start my morning by having tea and writing in the journal. And one day I would pick my nicest journal and my nicest cup. I would lit a candle. And then the next day I would pick just an average notebook and an average mug without paying any attention to the aesthetics. And I would do that for a while. And I noticed that the days when I do pay attention to how things look, my mood is way better in the morning, which then impacts my entire day. And I want to be very careful here because I don't think it means that you should throw away everything and buy everything new, pretty and shiny. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much you pay for a notebook, it's just a notebook and it serves the same purpose and you can write in it. But I think paying attention to those little details that can lift up your mood and make your space more welcoming and nice makes a lot of difference. At least it does to me, so you can try for yourself and see what works for you. You know how some flats have those oversensitive smoke alarms? Like you're cooking eggs and the alarm thinks that the entire house will burn down and it will not shut up? My brain has one of these too. I have this oversensitive, overactive brain, I get easily overwhelmed and overstimulated, and it does not help that we live in times of endless social media feeds and never-ending news cycles. All of that counts as mental load. Mental load is this weight of everything that you have to do, all the DMs waiting to be responded to, all the notifications, all the people living rent-free in your head, all the doubts, all the thoughts, all of that. It's like running with ankle weights. At first, you may not even notice that it makes any difference, but in the long run, it's getting harder and harder and it will definitely slow you down. So how to cut down on your mental load? Brain dump. Write down everything that you are thinking about, all your thoughts, all your worries, all your to-dos, all the appointments, everything. You can use a pen and paper, you can use a notebook, you can use a notes app on your phone, even a voice recorder. But importantly, you don't need to solve the action items on the list. You just need to list them. And already giving the physical form to your mental load is containing it. So it's no longer the storm that you can't control. It's just a list. It's just a piece of paper. And then you can proceed to cross out everything that you cannot influence. You can cross out anything that's not urgent today. So already this act of writing everything down and crossing some things out is so liberating, at least for me. So try it if you want. In the 50s, there was this controversial, unethical study done on prisoners. They were told to dig up holes and fill them up every day for no reason. Most of them very quickly became depressed or delirious. And I think it tells us one important thing. All of us need meaning in our life just as much as we need water, sleep, and food for survival. But I think it's also true that most of us have jobs that don't provide much meaning and fulfillment. We face our daily mundane realities, we do our chores. And no, I will not tell you to quit your job and drop everything you're doing, drop your kids at daycare and run away to the other side of the world. What I think we can do instead is find some time every week, be it an hour every week or 10 minutes a day, for a hobby that's not related to work. You often feel tired, not because you've done too much, but because you've done too little of what sparks a light in you. When I was in a very dark place about a year ago and somebody asked me what I did for fun, I could not respond. Fun and hobbies, it sounded like something that I did back in primary school. But hobbies don't have to be time-consuming or expensive. For example, now my mom, who's in her 50s, is learning how to play ukulele through YouTube, and I see it really, really helps her. But as someone who needs a tiny bit more structure and commitment, I'd like to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is the world's largest online learning community, so whatever you are passionate about, you can get better at it with Skillshare. You can try photography, writing, video editing, design, and lots of other arts and crafts. I recently jumped into an artistic guide to creativity, If you feel at least a tiny bit as excited as I am about mastering a skill or getting better at it with Skillshare, the first 500 people to click the link in the description will get a month free to try it out. Get a free month of Skillshare with the link in the description, and thank you Skillshare for sponsoring today's video.
People in therapy are often there to deal with people in their lives who won't go to therapy. I have a job, it's actually quite fulfilling. Throw my head understanding, I barely do anything else.
I know in theory that I should eat more healthy, but what happens most of the time is that I either feel like I don't have the time, or I just don't know what to cook, and then I have a noodle soup, or I order something. What I started doing recently that really helps me is that I have this doc where I'm saving the recipes for the dishes that I enjoy eating. They are more or less healthy, and they take between 5 to 15 minutes to prepare. So when it's an evening like tonight, and I'm really tired after work, and I don't know what to cook, I just open the document and I pick something. I also try to have frozen foods that are more or less healthy, like frozen veggies, frozen fruit, frozen soup mixes, and I try to cook a bit more of the dish that I'm preparing so I can freeze some for the day that I really don't have the time. And this helps me to eat more healthy. Whenever I read about habits or routines of successful people, it's always like, you need to have time for this, you need to have time for that. And as a typical perfectionist, I did try to do it all. And whenever I failed, I felt like a complete loser. But now I know better. I know better than to compare myself to somebody whose life circumstances are totally different to mine. Like people who don't need to do their own laundry, for example. And I also know that despite what the internet tells me, my productivity and my energy are in fact finite. And at some point, I will run out of them. So what I try to do now is that every evening I pick 3 things that I want to do the next day, and I try to schedule them during the day according to the patterns that I've observed in my energy and productivity. For instance, I know that I do my best analytical work and deep work in the mornings between 9 to 1 p.m. So I try to schedule my meetings in the afternoons if I can, and all those boring repetitive tasks such as folding the laundry, I try to keep that for the evenings after work because at this point my brain energy is gone anyways. I also noticed that my self-discipline and self-control are much weaker in the evenings. This is when I will usually watch something or play video games, and I will grab a snack. For this reason, I try to eat more healthy during the day when I can still control myself. This way, I have the space to slip up every now and then in the evenings when I'm really tired after work. And I think you don't need to be perfect, but knowing your capabilities and patterns can help you do your best with what you have. Very good. I made a table summarizing everything. You can screenshot it if you'd like. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like for my mental health. And if you want more of this, there's a video on the left that you can watch. Bye!